Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into a period of history so recent and so painful that it almost feels unbelievable.
It really does.
Our source material is the heart-wrenching memoir, First They Killed My Father, which was written by Loung Ung.
And this is so much more than just one person's story. It's a fiercely detailed document, really. It traces the devastating journey of the Ung family from, a pretty comfortable middle-class life in Phnom Penh
Right.
to the absolute hell of the Khmer Rouge regime. We're talking about those brutal 4 years between 1975 and 1979.
So we're seeing a national catastrophe, but we're seeing it through the eyes of a child.
A child who had to grow up far, far too fast.
And before we even jump into Loung's memories, we have to recognize the sheer scale of the horror she survived. I mean, the dedication of the book itself, it's a gut punch. Loung Ung dedicates her work in memory of the 2 million people who perished under the Khmer Rouge.
2 million people. It's a statistic that just has to stop you in your tracks.
It does.
2 million people out of a total population of what, maybe 7 million at the time.
So you're looking at a genocide that wiped out nearly a third of the entire country.
In just 4 years.
Yeah. And our mission today is really to trace how that vast abstract tragedy was carried out on an intimate family level, to kind of extract the mechanisms and the cruel logic of the Pol Pot regime that allowed this to happen.
That personal perspective is exactly what makes this account so essential. You can't separate the political policy from the pain of a little girl having to carry a heavy rice pot.
Exactly.
So to really understand the trauma of what was lost, we have to start with the contrast.
The before.
The before. The Ung family was securely middle class. They lived in a third-floor apartment in Phnom Penh, a city Loon remembers as, bustling, noisy,
Full of life.
full of life, perpetually jammed with traffic, policemen standing on these raised metal boxes directing it all.
She gives us this wonderful, almost childlike metric for success, right? Wealth was measured by how high you lived.
Yeah, she says the more money you have, the more stairs you have to climb.
I love that detail. And their status wasn't subtle.
Not at all. They owned 2 cars and a truck. The apartment had these domestic luxuries like a cuckoo clock and 2 telephones.
2 telephones.
I mean, these weren't objects of survival. They were markers of stability, of modernity.
And that stability allowed the children a kind of leisure that would become unimaginable later.
Oh, completely. Ling is very explicit that she and her siblings didn't really have to worry about chores.
They had a maid.
They employed a daily maid who handled the laundry, the cooking, the cleaning. And this detail is so important because it shows the family was deeply integrated into that capitalist urban structure.
The very thing.
The very thing that Khmer Rouge would later declare to be the source of all evil.
It sets up the whole ideological conflict. They are the new people.
Yeah.
The urban, the educated class that Pol Pot wanted to just completely eradicate.
But Loung remembers this life in such vivid, sensory detail. She talks about the comforting routine of eating noodle soup or French bread with iced coffee for breakfast.
The smells.
Yes, that distinct aromatic smell of garlic, cilantro, ginger, beef broth, just wafting from the nearby stalls.
And their family culture was this interesting blend of Cambodian tradition and her mother's Chinese heritage.
Right, Ma, the mother. She stood 5'6", which Loung describes as being an Amazon among Cambodian women.
Wow.
And she was meticulous about hygiene. She would enforce these rules even when they were eating out, insisting that all the cutlery be dipped in hot water to kill the germs.
It just paints a picture of such an ordered, careful life, a life that valued health and cleanliness, all these things that would just vanish overnight.
Completely.
And the family dynamics are just so compelling, especially given what they're about to face. Tell us about Pa, the father.
Pa was a military police captain. He'd found financial stability after giving up gambling, and he's described as incredibly generous. He also spoke fluent French.
And he believed in education.
Profoundly. He insisted the children attend classes in Khmer, Chinese, and French 6 days a week. For him, learning was the only real foundation for their future.
And then there's Loung. She wasn't the easy child.
No, she was the troublesome one. The curious, stomping child who just didn't fit the mold.
And Ma, the mother, was always trying to shave her.
Constantly. Ma was beautiful and very proper, always trying to mold Loung into a proper lady walk. Quietly, smile without showing your teeth, that sort of thing.
She was compared, I think, unfavorably to her quieter sister, Chow.
Yeah, Chow, whose name meant gem. Loung was not the gem.
But Pa saw something totally different in her, didn't he?
He did. He championed her troublesome nature, her endless curiosity. Like she would ask street vendors how to skin frogs, or what the difference was between edible and inedible worms.
And he didn't shut that down?
He defended it. He called her too smart and clever for people to understand. And this creates this incredibly strong, almost mythological bond between them, which becomes so crucial later.
That mythological element is interesting. It ties into a specific cultural custom she mentions.
Oh, the one about compliments.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Loung recalls how adults would often call a child ugly, right to their face, just after complimenting them.
Which sounds so harsh to us.
It does, but it wasn't cruelty. It was a kind of protection. They believed that if you complimented a child, you'd attract evil spirits who might try to take the child away.
So it's a strategic defense, a kind of misdirection.
Exactly. And that strategy of misdirection runs parallel to how Pa names Loung, in a way.
The dragon.
The dragon. He told her that her name, Loung, translated to dragon in a Chinese dialect, powerful, wise, and able to see the future.
Right.
This gift of identity, it gives her an internal strength she'll desperately need.
Absolutely. And that last critical memory of that charmed life is the trip to Angkor Wat.
Right. Pa took her there when she was very small. He told her the gods lived in those towering stone temples.
And she saw him in them.
She did. She remembers being struck by the colossal stone faces of the gods with their almond eyes, flat noses, full lips, and realizing they look just like her father.
It's such a subtle connection, but it links her father to the divine, to the very spirit of Cambodia.
And it deepens the tragedy so much when the man she sees as a godlike protector is taken from her.
So that stability, that protected life, it evaporates in a single day, April 17th, 1975.
The war is declared over, and the Khmer Rouge soldiers arrive. Loung remembers them as filthy, carrying long rifles, wearing black clothes.
And the city cheered. They thought they were being liberated.
A collective delusion that Pa, the military captain, just instantly shatters. Loung runs to him on the balcony, all excited, but Pa points out one tiny specific detail that tells him everything.
What was it?
He says, "Look at their shoes. They wear sandals made from car tires."
Wow, that's such a chilling piece of political analysis disguised as a commentary on fashion.
It is. Because what does that one observation reveal?
It reveals everything. It's about their core ideology.
Exactly. The complete, absolute rejection of modernity, of infrastructure. Pa saw not just poverty, but a profound anti-intellectual, anti-urban bias. He immediately figured it out. He said, it shows that these people are destroyers of things.
They don't reuse, they destroy.
They reject existing structures, right down to the very means of transportation. This is the implementation of Year Zero, a complete forced restart of Cambodian society.
And the shift to evacuation is immediate. Terrifying.
The family has to shed their old life instantly. Ma starts running around frantically, grabbing only the absolute essentials. Aluminum bowls, dried fish, rice, canned goods.
And they leave the comfortable black Mazda behind.
That potent symbol of their erased status. They take Pa's old squeaky pickup truck instead.
The urgency is just palpable in her writing. They're driving out on Highway 4 in the suffocating April heat.
Which is the hottest month, traditionally, before the monsoons come. And Loung describes the landscape changing almost instantly. Paved boulevards and high-rises just give way to empty rice fields, dusty roads, thatched roof huts.
They're being driven into the agrarian landscape that the Angkar romanticized and weaponized.
And the psychological manipulation starts immediately.
The lie of 3 days.
The lie of 3 days. People are told they have to evacuate the city for just 72 hours for a thorough cleaning. Loung clings to this promise, desperately believing she'll be back in her bed soon.
It's a brilliant and cruel tactic. It minimized resistance and ensured rapid compliance.
But the truth, as Pa knew, was crushing. When the truck inevitably breaks down, they're forced to walk.
Carrying what's left, Loung is dragging the heady rice pot.
The physical reality reinforces the political lie. And on the third day, when she's sobbing, demanding to know why they aren't turning back, Pa delivers the final blow to her childhood.
What does he say?
He says, "They lie. The soldiers lie. We cannot go home tonight. You have to forget Phnom Penh."
To forget the only life she's ever known.
And she recalls the sheer scale of it, walking from dawn until dark for days, alongside this immense crowd, a sea of silent, fearful people, all walking to unknown destinations, sleeping on the roadside.
The Angkar effectively turned the entire urban population into refugees in their own country.
In an instant.
The immediate life-or-death reality for the Ungs then centers on secrecy, right?
It's everything. When they reach the Kambal checkpoint, people are being told to register with the new power, the Angkar, or the organization. And Pa's quick thinking is literally the family's only defense.
His instruction is definitive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He says, remember, we are a family of peasants. Don't say anything. Let me do all the talking. They have to lie about everything, especially his former job as a military police captain.
Which would have been an instant death sentence.
Instant. And this deception saved their lives. Loung later overhears the grim truth. The men who followed orders, who registered,
The ex-soldiers, the government workers.
the educated professionals, they were all killed by the Khmer Rouge soldiers that very same night.
Wow, so obeying the Angkar meant certain death if you were part of the old society.
Pa's decision to break the rules of the new regime was the ultimate act of survival.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the foundational layer of the Angkar's control. Systematic class warfare.
Exactly. They formalized it through this distinction between the base people and the new people.
Who were the base people?
They were the illiterate farmers, the rural poor who had supported Pol Pot's revolution for years. They were suddenly elevated to the ruling class, armed with this ideological superiority.
And they despised the new people.
With an utter contempt, they would yell things like, capitalists should be shot and killed. The Angkar used envy and resentment as a tool for genocide. They justified murder as a cleansing social revolution.
And this systematic destruction of society went after the very fabric of personal identity. It started with symbols and language.
Everything. The Angkar banned all private ownership, declaring that everything now belonged to the organization.
And they systematically attacked the family unit itself.
They did. New words were enforced immediately. Father was no longer Pa, he was Po. Mother was no longer Ma, she became Meh.
Which seems like such a small detail.
But it's not. Stripping away the intimate language of the family weakens those bonds. It redirects all loyalty away from blood and toward the state.
We see that so clearly with the symbolic burning of their possessions.
Oh, yes. Loung describes watching the destruction of the beautiful red New Year's dresses Ma had made for the girls. Dresses that symbolized hope, celebration.
And the soldier labels them symbols of impropriety and capitalism.
The visual is just devastating. She watches her first red dress, a color that in Chinese culture can symbolize celebration, but also impropriety, just melt like plastic in the fire.
It's the Angkar physically burning history, burning personal pride, individual beauty.
Anything that could distract from absolute subservience to the collective.
And that attack extended to the cultural and spiritual core of Cambodia religion.
Banned it completely. They feared that devotion to any god or loyalty to any spiritual guide might detract from the absolute mandatory devotion to the Angkar.
And you have to remember Lung's memory of Angkor Wat.
Where the gods lived and the faces looked like her father.
Exactly. And the Khmer Rouge actively worked to destroy sites like that. They mutilated the ancient stone animal guards. They shot the heads off of sandstone deities.
They forced monks to disrobe, convert, murder, or risk execution in the minefields. The entire infrastructure of faith was systematically dismantled.
Leaving the population spiritually adrift.
Without any traditional comfort.
Yeah.
So the mechanics are crystal clear. Destroy the city, eliminate the educated, ban the language of family, abolish faith. All roads must lead only to the Angkar.
So once identity and loyalty were shattered, what was the Angkar's next great weapon?
Controlled hunger. Loung's descriptions of starvation are not just anecdotal. They illustrate the deliberate failure of the communal food system.
Rations were constantly being reduced.
Continuously, eventually shrinking down to a meager 12-ounce can of rice for every 10 people.
And the food was mostly water.
Almost liquid. She says the Tuk's goal was to serve rice soup, not even rice gruel. People would gather around the pots, just praying the ladle would scrape the bottom where the few solid grains might have settled.
And this scarcity was engineered, wasn't it? This wasn't just a famine.
No, it was engineered. The Angkar believed that by controlling food, they controlled labor. They forced people to work ceaselessly just for a chance at a few calories.
The physical toll is documented with just horrifying detail.
It is. She describes her body as emaciated. She could count every rib, but her stomach is bloated like a ball.
Which is a sign of severe malnutrition.
Organ failure and extreme protein deficiency. Her feet, she notes, were swollen and glistening with edema. She could press her thumb into her foot, and the dent would just stay there.
That's the body betraying itself.
Under systemic neglect, yes.
And this level of desperation, it dictates your morality. The family resorts to desperate, treasonous measures.
They do. Ma had cleverly hidden their valuable jewels, ruby bracelets, diamond rings, by sewing them into the straps of their bags.
And Paul used these to trade for food.
Secretly, he traded them with the chief for rice, risking instant execution for treason.
Because bartering was banned.
explicitly banned. The Angkar enforced this perverse form of economic equality, declaring that if one person starves, then all should starve. Trading wealth for food was an act of defiance.
It was a rejection of the state's monopoly on sustenance.
Exactly.
And Loung, the formerly privileged city child, she observes how hunger changes her own sense of right and wrong.
Yeah, she admits she became so desperate that she longed to steal corn. She says she finally understood why the poor children she once judged in Phnom Penh had to steal to survive.
The Angkar leveled everyone in their misery.
It did. Survival became primal. Loung talks about eating anything they could find, frogs, crickets, grasshoppers. She even admits to fighting other people over dead animals in the road.
And she includes that chilling reference.
It's a woman driven to cannibalism.
Yes.
The core focus of life just becomes simple, animalistic survival, stripped of all human dignity.
And that systemic brutality, it targeted the most vulnerable, especially women and girls.
Lung's account of Davi, her beautiful teenage neighbor, is just devastating. The soldiers take her, supposedly to pick corn.
Her parents begged.
They banged their heads on the dirt, pleading for her to be returned. She came back the next morning bruised, swollen, and just silent.
And the villagers, they shunned her.
They treated her as invisible. It shows how the regime used sexual violence not just for gratification, but as a mechanism of public humiliation and control.
The soldiers were terrifyingly explicit about their ideology regarding women, weren't they?
Yeah, their duty was to bear children for the Angkar. And if they failed that duty, they were worthless and dispensable. The memoir notes that many girls chose suicide over being taken.
And even Ma, as strong as she was not immune.
No. In an act of pure desperation and motherly love, she risked her life. She traded ruby earrings for a small chicken to feed the youngest, Geek.
And she was ambushed.
Ambushed by a man who punched her in the stomach, kicked her, stole the jewels, and left her gasping in the dirt. Even the smallest act of rebellion against starvation was met with crushing brutality.
And then the losses begin. The family starts to be picked apart.
Starting with Kiva, only 14, beautiful. She was deemed strong enough to be separated from the family and sent to a brutal teenage work camp, Kang Chalat.
Dawn to dusk labor on watery rice soup.
Predictably, she fell gravely sick. Her stomach bloated, her body failing. She died alone in a makeshift hospital, a place Loung notes had no real doctors or medicine.
Because the Angkar had purged them all.
Long ago. Kia's death wasn't an accident. It was the direct, calculated result of the regime's policy.
The fear of exposure must have been constant after that, and after 20 months of hiding, Pa is finally found out.
2 soldiers come for him. They casually tell Loung he'll be back tomorrow morning. But Pa's final look. Loung's sudden surge of anxiety. She knows the truth. Instantly.
This is where that dragon persona kicks in.
She said she can see the future. She knows the common execution methods were designed to save ammunition. Torture, beheading, cracking skulls with axes.
And she's tormented by the image of him dying slowly in a mass grave.
She prays to the gods that he died quickly. To survive the pain, she describes consciously blacking out the part of her that feels emotion.
She clings to that memory of Angkor Wat.
Yes, that the faces of the gods look like him. She tries desperately to believe his spirit is still looking for her. But the stark reality is the constant return of the soldiers. Always in pairs, always with thin excuses, taking fathers away.
Leaving the wives to sob alone on the steps, forever waiting.
The pressure just keeps mounting until Mom makes the most horrific, calculated choice of her life.
What was that?
She realizes they will all eventually die if they remain a recognizable, targeted family unit. So she forces a final, devastating separation.
It was a strategic necessity.
A terrible one. She essentially weaponizes the children's orphan status. Her logic was, if they cannot find us, they cannot kill us.
So she forces the 3 oldest surviving children, Loung, Kim, and Chao-tu, scatter.
In different directions, Kim South, Chow North, and Long East.
And Geek, the youngest.
Geek was only 4. Too young to go alone, so she stayed with Ma. And the instructions were brutal. Change your names, and never ever admit you know each other.
Loung must have felt betrayed.
She says her heart sank, a momentary flash of betrayal, believing Ma was choosing Geek. But then she understood the cold, calculated necessity behind it.
And Loung is sent to a children's work camp. Because she's physically strong, she's later reassigned to a child soldier training camp.
And given a new name, Serene.
This is the Angkar's attempt at total psychological assimilation.
It is. The supervisor, Met Bong, focuses intensely on mind training. The children are taught to follow orders without question, without hesitation.
And to kill their own parents.
Shoot and kill even their traitor parents. The regime sought to make the children agents of their own destruction, wiping out entire family lines.
And the weapons training. That drives home the year zero philosophy, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. Metbon doesn't hand out rifles. He gathers farm tools, sickles, hoes, hammers, machetes, and teaches the children how to use them as primary weapons of war.
The irony is sickening.
Loung notes it. She says, "These are the weapons Pol Pot's men used on their victims like Pa. They're taught to use the sharp edge of the sickle to take off heads, the hammer to smash skulls."
The very instruments of agrarian labor they glorified are their instruments of murder.
Exactly. Loung practices her drills, stabbing these wooden dummies. And while she keeps up the facade of an obedient orphan, inside, she channels all her rage.
She practices revenge fantasies.
Elaborate ones where she's the victor. She's preparing the dragon within her for an eventual confrontation.
And then, in January 1979, the world turns upside down again.
The Vietnamese invasion. The Yun invasion. Met Bon becomes frantic, doubling down on the propaganda, insisting the Yuns are monsters, rapists, killers.
But the Khmer Rouge army is mighty.
A lie that quickly shatters. Loung overhears men saying the Yuns marched in quickly, defeated Pol Pot's army in just 3 weeks.
And for many Cambodians, they were seen as liberators.
They were. Liberators who saved them from Pol Pot's massacres. Massacres that Pol Pot himself had provoked by attacking Vietnamese border villages. The mighty Khmer Rouge was just another lie built on fear.
But the change of regime didn't instantly end the violence.
Not at all. Lone is accosted by a young soldier who drags her into the woods, ordering her to lie down.
And she fights back.
With all the violent hatred she had stored up, she screams, calls him monster, and kicks him in the groin, using that survival rage to escape.
And she keeps it a secret.
Instantly. It just emphasizes that terrible truth. Violence, sexual and otherwise, persisted long after the Khmer Rouge's defeat. The country was in chaos.
She also witnesses the aftermath, the appetite for vengeance.
She does. She sees a public execution of a captured Khmer Rouge soldier by angry civilians. 2 women, one with a knife, one with a hammer, acting as executioners.
Blood splatters on her.
And she has this realization that this act of vengeance, however deserved it might be, won't bring her family back. Justice is not the same thing as healing.
And then comes the emotional climax of this period. She's driven by this profound anxiety.
A premonition she's convinced is from Paul, warning her. She travels back to her family's village.
And the hut is empty.
A woman confirms the terrible truth. Ma and Geek were taken by soldiers.
And that's the moment it becomes real.
After months of pretending, she has to internalize her new reality. She finally acknowledges she's a true orphan. She goes back to her camp and stabs those young dummies with a renewed, devastating rage. She no longer has to pretend.
The war ends in a chaotic retreat. While they're sheltering from shelling, a rocket hits.
It instantly kills Chow's friend Pithy. Loung's hand is splattered with Pithy's blood and brain matter.
And the final surviving siblings, Kim, Chow, and Long flee under fire from the losing Khmer Rouge soldiers, running toward a completely uncertain future.
After the invasion subsides, a miraculous, though painful, reunification happens.
Meng, Kui, Kim, and Chow all manage to find each other.
They do, in a village called Bat Dang. And Meng, as the oldest surviving brother, is immediately elevated to the role of patriarch. An uncle tells him, pretty bluntly, that his life is no longer his own. He has a family to care for.
So the desperate decision is made to escape Cambodia entirely.
And that escape is just a stark reminder of the cost of freedom. They gather the remaining pieces of Ma's hidden jewelry, which had been entrusted to Kui.
And they pool the gold to buy seats on a boat to Thailand.
Costing a fortune. 10 ounces of gold per seat. It's a literal exchange of the last vestiges of their former life for a chance at a new one.
And they have to make another agonizing choice. Who gets to go?
Meng, as the new head, has to go to secure their future. And Loung is chosen to go with him because of her relative youth and strength.
Saying goodbye to Chow must have been unbearable.
Agonizing. Loung forces herself not to cry. She sees tears as a luxury Chow, who is staying behind, might be able to afford, but she can't. She has to be strong.
And she clings to Meng's bicycle as they go through Phnom Penh one last time.
A city that now reeked of trash and neglect. A devastating contrast to her childhood memory of traffic jams and street food. Meng, probably out of trauma or just focused on survival, forgets to even show her their old apartment.
The physical memory of their home is just gone.
It's gone.
The journey takes them through Vietnam.
By small boat, covered in fish, hidden under plastic sheeting, and when they arrive in Saigon, Loung is utterly stunned.
By the normalcy?
The prosperity, the vibrancy, The sheer normalcy. The streets are crowded. Women are wearing red lipstick and colorful dresses, laughing openly, walking without fear. The food stalls are vibrant and clean.
Everything Phnom Penh had lost was present in Saigon.
It was a jarring vision of what life should have been.
Their final push is across the Gulf of Thailand to the Lam Sing refugee camp. And even on the sea, the danger is constant.
They were painfully aware of the threat of Thai pirates who would steal valuables and, most horrifically, rape the women and girls.
And they prepared for it.
In a terrible, systematic act of self-mutilation for survival, the women smeared black charcoal paste on their faces and bodies to make themselves deliberately ugly.
And the younger girls.
They scooped vomit from bags and smeared it in their hair. It's the ultimate submission to fear, destroying your own appearance to avoid a worse fate.
And they hid their valuables.
Swallowing small diamonds, sewing gold into clothes. But when the pirates board, and she notes they look just like them, another betrayal, they're ruthless. A pirate searches Loung, finds a matchbox in her pocket.
And he takes Pa's jade Buddha pendant.
The one physical connection she had left to her father and her faith. The pirates stole more than just gold. They stole the intangible anchors of identity.
They spend 5 months waiting for sponsorship in the Thai refugee camp. And here, Meng makes another critical strategic compromise.
A compromise that really highlights the lasting complexity of these survival decisions. Loung sees him being baptized by a white father. Meng has strategically converted to Christianity.
And she asks him why.
He explains it plainly. Being a Christian will help us get sponsors faster. Many refugees are sponsored by church groups. Christians like to help other Christians.
So it's purely transactional.
A necessary surrender of cultural identity in exchange for the safety of a future.
And it works.
It works. They're sponsored by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and relocate to Vermont. And Loung just throws herself into intense Americanization.
Soccer, cheerleading.
Cuts her hair short, wears dark makeup to make her eyes look more Western. It's a deliberate, conscious attempt to erase the war memories, to become someone unrecognizable to the horror she left behind.
But the trauma is too deeply embedded to be erased by makeup.
Never. Years later, in 1984, the sight of starving Ethiopian children on television, with their hollow faces, big bellies, skin hanging on bones, it brings back the searing, visceral memory of Geek's hunger.
The past violently inserts itself back into her new American reality.
Always.
Finally, the return. She goes back to Cambodia in 1995. She reunites with Chow, Khoi, and other family members.
And it's an awkward reunion that shatters her fantasy of a warm, immediate, protective embrace.
The awkwardness is physical, isn't it?
It's jarringly physical. Her comfortable, practical, loose-fitting black clothes, they make her look, to them, like a Khmer Rouge soldier. And her family keeps a visible physical and emotional distance.
The years of separation, the forced hardening of her heart, it all created a chasm that can't be instantly closed.
No. And that emotional distance symbolizes the complex cost of survival. Loung ultimately writes her memoir to gain the vocabulary to express many of the things that had long been imploding inside me.
She finds peace not by erasing the past, but by accepting it.
By accepting it, recognizing that her war child is there beside me, giving me strength. She recognizes that the child who survived the Khmer Rouge remains within her, defining her strength, not diminishing it. #tag outro.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When you trace Loung Ung's narrative, you realize that Khmer Rouge's genocide was more than just political murder. It was a systematic, calculated destruction of identity.
Completely. The Angkar specifically targeted everything that made up civilized, life class, language, religion, family structure, personal possessions.
And they enforced a perverse kind of equality through shared starvation and shared fear.
And yet, the human spirit's resilience, it manifests not through any grand political resistance, but through these quiet, desperate acts of love that defy the Angkar's nihilistic mandate.
Like Pao risking execution to lie about his history.
Or Chu risking severe punishment to steal and dry rice. Mao risking a brutal assault for a small chicken for Geek. These small, treasonous acts of familial devotion were the real resistance.
So what does this all mean? I mean, Leung's experience demonstrates how fragile civilization is, how quickly an entire middle-class structure can be erased.
And how the instruments of farming hammers and sickles can be converted into state-sanctioned tools of murder.
The necessity of adopting the oppressor's mindset, being strong, lying about your past, showing no emotion just to survive, created this profound psychological complexity.
A complexity that the journey to freedom could not immediately untangle.
That emotional weight that lingers years later, symbolized by that awkward family reunion in 1995, it shows that physical safety doesn't equate to psychological healing.
Not at all.
Yeah.
The strategic compromises made for survival changing your faith, abandoning family members, adopting a survival persona, they have a permanent, lasting weight on the soul.
And that leads to our final provocative thought for you. Consider the profound, multifaceted cost of survival itself. When Meng converts to Christianity to gain sponsorship, or Lim lies about being an orphan to join a soldier camp, they are choosing life over the integrity of their identity. Was that strategic abandonment of faith and family bonds necessary to secure their future worth the psychological rift it created? And how does one ever truly reconcile the survival self with the peaceful self years later when the war child never fully leaves your side?